Imagine this. You're alone in your house. The lights suddenly go out. Nothing has changed. The furniture is still there where it was. The doors are still locked. The room is exactly the same as it was 5 seconds ago, and yet your heart beats faster. You listen more carefully. You feel less certain, maybe even a little afraid. Why? Why do so many human beings fear darkness? Why can a grown adult feel perfectly safe in a room one moment and uneasy the next simply because the lights are switched off? Tonight we're exploring one of humanity's oldest fears. We'll examine where it came from, whether parents unintentionally pass it to their children, how Hollywood built an entire industry about it, why creatures like vampires are linked to darkness, and what people can do if fear of the dark still affects their lives. Because darkness itself isn't dangerous, yet for millions of people, it feels that way. Let's start with the obvious. Humans are not particularly well equipped for nighttime vision. Compared to nocturnal animals, our eyes are surprisingly limited. Cats, owls, foxes, and many other nighttime hunters possess adaptations that allow them to gather far more light than we can. Many nocturnal animals have much larger pupils relative to their eye size. Some possess a reflective layer behind the retina called the tapetum lucidum. This acts almost like a mirror, bouncing light back through the eye and dramatically improving low-light vision. It's also why a cat's eyes seem to glow when caught in a flashlight beam. Humans don't have this feature. Our vision becomes blurry and uncertain. As darkness increases, details disappear, shapes become more difficult to identify, and uncertainty begins to grow. But poor vision alone doesn't explain fear. After all, most people aren't terrified when they close their eyes in the shower. Something deeper is happening. Darkness creates a problem for the human brain. The brain is constantly trying to predict what's happening around us. It builds a model of the world using information from our senses, but in darkness, much of that information disappears. The brain suddenly receives fewer visual details. And when information is missing, the brain fills in the blanks. This is where imagination enters. That coat hanging on the chair might be a person. That shadow might be a movement. That strange noise might be something approaching. Our ancestors who assumed the worst were often more likely to survive. If a rustle in the bushes was only the wind, no harm done. But if it was a predator and you ignored it, the consequences could be fatal. Evolution rewarded caution. The result is a nervous system that often treats uncertainty as potential danger. Darkness doesn't just remove information, it creates opportunities for our imagination to supply frightening possibilities. Fear of darkness appears to be partly evolutionary and partly learned. Young children often show fear of darkness even before being exposed to horror stories. Researchers believe this may stem from a natural tendency to be cautious when visibility is reduced, but culture amplifies the fear. Throughout history, darkness has been associated with danger. Predators hunted at night. Criminal activity often occurs after sunset. Travel became difficult and risky. Many cultures filled the darkness with supernatural beings, ghosts, demons, witches, spirits. The unknown became populated with imagined threats. Darkness became more than the absence of light. It became the home of everything people feared. Parents usually mean well, but sometimes they may unintentionally reinforce a child's fear of darkness. Consider the messages many children receive. Don't go into the basement. Beware of monsters. Watch out for the bogeyman. Stay away from dark places. Then comes the nightlight. The intention is comfort, but the message can be sometimes, the darkness is dangerous, so here's protection. A child may begin to associate darkness with threat. The nightlight becomes not a convenience, but a shield. Of course, not every child develops a fear. Many children naturally outgrow it. But when fear is repeatedly reinforced, it can persist into adolescence and adulthood. The irony is that children often learn more from observing adults than from listening to them. A parent who is visibly uncomfortable in darkness may be teaching fear without realizing it. Darkness and monsters have been linked for centuries. Perhaps the most famous example is the vampire. From folklore to modern cinema, vampires are creatures of the night. They hide from sunlight. They emerge after dark. They strike when visibility is low and fear is high. The same pattern appears again and again. Werewolves transform under moonlight. Ghosts appear in abandoned buildings at night. Demons emerge from shadowy places. Why? Because darkness already creates uncertainty. The monster simply gives that uncertainty a face. The darkness becomes frightening because something might be in it. The creature and the darkness reinforce each other. One would be far less effective without the other. Hollywood quickly recognized the power of darkness. An entire genre of horror emerged around what cannot be seen. Think about how many horror films rely on darkness. A flashlight beam, a dark hallway, a basement, an abandoned house. The audience rarely sees the threat immediately. Instead, darkness allows anticipation to build. The imagination does most of the work. Often the unseen threat is more terrifying than the revealed one. Filmmakers understand something psychologists have known for years. The human mind frequently creates fears far worse than reality. Darkness becomes a canvas onto which the audience projects its deepest anxieties. The result is a genre worth billions of dollars that repeatedly exploits one of humanity's oldest fears. Even giants fear the dark. One of the most memorable examples in fiction appears in The Green Mile. The character John Coffey is physically enormous, strong enough to intimidate almost anyone. Yet, during the story, he quietly admits something deeply human. He is afraid of the dark. His fear isn't weakness. It reminds us that fear is not determined by physical size. A giant can fear darkness. A soldier can fear darkness. A successful executive can fear darkness. The fear exists in the mind, not the muscles. And that makes it something almost anyone can experience. Fear of darkness is more common than many people realize. Even famous individuals have spoken about it. Keanu Reeves has reportedly discussed being uncomfortable with darkness during parts of his life. Jennifer Lopez has spoken publicly about preferring not to sleep in complete darkness. Many adults continue using nightlights, hallway lights, televisions, or ambient lighting long after childhood. Most simply don't talk about it, because fear of the dark is often viewed as childish. Yet psychologists estimate that a significant percentage of adults experience some degree of discomfort when alone in complete darkness. They are far from alone. So how to overcome the fear? If fear of darkness affects your life, there is good news. It can usually be reduced. The first step is understanding that fear thrives on avoidance. Every time you avoid darkness, your brain receives confirmation that darkness is dangerous. Gradual exposure is often more effective. Spend small amounts of time in dimly lit environments and allow your eyes to adjust. Observe that nothing bad happens. Challenge catastrophic thoughts. Ask yourself, what exactly am I afraid will happen? What evidence supports that fear? What evidence contradicts it? Relaxation techniques can also help. Slow breathing reduces the body's threat response. Mindfulness helps redirect attention away from imagined dangers, and for severe cases, cognitive behavioral therapy has proven highly effective. The goal is not to force yourself into terrifying situations. The goal is to teach your brain that darkness and danger are not the same thing. So, in conclusion, darkness itself is nothing. It has no claws, no teeth, no intention. Yet for thousands of years, humans have filled it with fears, monsters, spirits, predators, and imagined dangers. Part of that fear comes from evolution, part comes from culture. Part comes from our remarkable ability to imagine things that are not there. Perhaps the real mystery isn't why darkness frightens us. Perhaps it's why our minds are so determined to populate the unknown. Because in the end, what scares us most may not be what's hiding in the darkness. It may be what our imagination puts there. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and let us know in the comments. Are you afraid of the dark? And if so, what do you think is really hiding there?